Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Simon Rattle inflicts himself on British composers. Now, these are not the same recordings, not all of them, some of them are, that we find in his big box of Berlin musical mediocrity. Remember that? There was that thing. These are part Berlin, part Birmingham, and there are some good things here, mostly from Simon Rattle's early stages, because, he was better when he was younger. He didn't age gracefully. He was kind of like sour cream that's been sitting in your refrigerator for too long. I actually recently found a pint that was expired in 2024, and it looked about ready to explode. Well, there's nothing that exciting here, but you still wouldn't want to eat it. Let's put it that way. Let's go through this, shall we? We have 14 fun-filled CDs. And the real issue with Simon Rattle, he wasn't known as a conductor of British music, not at all. That wasn't his thing. He was sort of the international guy, among British composers, and that was good. I mean, it was good that he was doing other kinds of repertoire. Wasn't doing it especially well, but he was doing it. What's interesting is that we don't see his earliest recordings anywhere. Remember when he got started, people kind of liked some of the things he was doing. I mean, slow Rachmaninoff symphonic dances, which was nonetheless really good. A Shostakovich 10 that had an edit in the first movement, was missing about 10 bars, but once they put them back, it wasn't terrible. A Sibelius Fifth that had some merit with the Philharmonia. He was making those early recordings. It'd be fun to revisit those. But let's start. We begin with Elgar. This thing somehow made it into the British Composers series, even though EMI has about 400,000 better recordings of this music. The Enigma Variations, Grania and Diarmid, which is a little incidental music thing, and Falstaff. They're okay. Nothing special. That's the problem. That is the problem. When Simon Rattle put his imprimatur on these masterworks, most of what you got was same old. Just, okay, he did it. However much gramophone oozed and expostulated and sputtered and drooled and dripped over them. Speaking of drooling and dripping, oh my goodness. The Dream of Gerontius. Here's the beginning, and here's the end of it. I remember the session reports and all of the falderall and build up to the release of, it's the Dream of Gerontius. I mean, gorgeous music, horrendous poem, funny poem, risible. That's the word that actually attaches to this text. I mean, you had Janet Baker just before she retired singing The Angel, and John Shirley Quirk, who should have retired, as the Angel of the Agony, and it was an agony listening to him. And John Mitchinson was a very good soul of Gerontius, and then everybody does their thing. The Demon's Chorus, Lowborn Clods, I love that. It's nicely done, and it's okay. Then we've got the Violin Concerto. Who's the soloist with Nigel Kennedy? Yeah, this I never particularly cared for because the finale is just distended unnecessarily in proportion to the other movements. I just find it to be rather dull. And we've got one Pomp and Circumstance March. So, again, this Gerontius came out. I greatly prefer the classic Barbaroli, the classic Sir John Barbaroli, but Hickox, who really nails it. I mean, if you want a modern, exciting, thrillingly sung Gerontius, I mean, Hickox, I think, is the way to go on Chandos. But this one came and went, and, it still needed to went. The Planets with the Berlin Phil. What was earlier one was kind of more fun. It wasn't fabulously well played, but this is, it had Pluto. And Pluto, remember, by Colin Matthews, which, if there's ever a work that ends where it should end, it's The Planets, right? You have the women's chorus slowly fading out into the vastness of space. And then this thing comes up, this little pissant of a planetoid. I don't think Pluto should have been deplanetized. I think that was sort of unfortunate, but at least it got rid of this unneeded appendix to the planets. Nothing special there. Vaughan Williams, on Wenlock Edge and Songs of Travel with Robert Tier. This was early. It's quite lovely. And the Lark Ascending, let's see. Thomas Addis's Tevot is here. There we go, 22 minutes of something or other. And then these Vaughan Williams pieces, which are earlier. It's a strange way to couple everything. But the Vaughan Williams stuff was lovely. You do get a very slow Lark Ascending, 17 minutes. This Lark is really having problems with liftoff. But the song cycles, the Songs of Travel and On Wenlock Edge are lovely. With Robert Tier back in the day. I mean, reminds us of what was. Yes. Oh, gosh. Walton, Symphony No. 1 and Belshazzar's Feast. Blah. Totally mediocre, unnecessary, dreary. The Belshazzar's Feast was like fast and okay, and with Thomas Hampson, who's not great, and the first symphony is not one of the best, not by a million miles. It's not violent enough in the first movement. It doesn't have that melancholy edge and that gorgeous slow movement. The scherzo with malice, he's trying, but I just get a sense that the orchestra is not quite on top of the piece. It's a very difficult work to play well. It really is. So, and this one was never one of the better ones. Let's see. Walton Cello Concerto, Malcolm Arnold Guitar Concerto, Elgar's Cello Concerto with Lynn Harrell, Truls Mork, Julian Bream, and these are okay. Everyone will have a better, version of the Elgar Cello Concerto ready to hand, or a favorite version, let's put it that way. But the Walton's well done, and the Malcolm Arnold Guitar Concerto is a nice novelty. So that disc is in this particular coupling is charmant. Okay, we've got the War Requiem, 83 minutes on one CD. I really like this War Requiem. I always have. It has a couple oddities in the scene with Abraham and Isaac. There's a moment where in the percussion you're supposed to use a tam-tam with a hard stick to go crash. It's a real S&M moment when Isaac's getting bound, and they don't. You do it that way, and I always wondered why they didn't. But that's me. In any case, that's a tiny little detail that I noticed as a percussion guy, but it's really well recorded. It's just a knockout EMI analog recording before they went digital and all hell broke loose for a couple of years and no one knew what they were doing. Really, really beautiful, well sung, intense, with a hair-raising climax in the Libera Me. It really is a fine War Requiem. And the soloists are Elizabeth Soderstrom, Robert Tier, Thomas Allen, the City of Birmingham Symphony Chorus, and City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. I think this may have been before Rattle took over in Birmingham. I'm not sure. But it has the commitment. It's not the tidiest performance out there, but it really, really tells. And I think that Rattle was in great form. I come back to this performance with great pleasure. I really do. His Britten generally was good. Actually, because Britten was a very internationalist composer. He did all that Englishy stuff at some point in his life because he had to. But his music, I think, fits a conductor who is not going to fall down the English pastoral school crack, and do all the Vaughan Williams and those people, as Rattle never did, really. So we've got Ian Bostridge very, very capably singing Les Illuminations, Britten's Serenade for Tenor, Horn, and Strings, and the Nocturne. Very fine disc. This is with the Berlin Phil. So that's good. And, okay. So he did a whole bunch of weird Britten orchestral works. Not great pieces necessarily, but interesting. And they were premiere recordings, a lot of them. There was this disc that had the Canadian Carnival Overture and Young Apollo and the 4 French songs, the Sinfonia de Requiem, the Scottish Ballad, the Occasional Overture, and this one that had an American Overture, the Russian Funeral, Ballad of Heroes, Diversions for Piano, Left Hand, and Orchestra, The Building of the House, Praise We Great Men, and the Suite on English Folk Tunes. These are all really, really fine performances. Some of the best things that Rattle did. They really are. And I have no problem whatsoever saying so. His Britten was estimable. definitely fine. Then we've got this Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra, which is okay. The Cello Symphony, which is just not a very pleasant work. Let's put it that. It's kind of gnarly and ugly, and I never quite got it, but it's very well played by Truls Mork. Oliver Knusson's Flourish with Fireworks, a little tiny thing. Mark Anthony Turnage, Series, and Nicholas Maw, Odyssey, the beginning. Remember Odyssey? Odyssey got all kinds of attention when it came out. It was the largest symphonic anything ever conceived. It was supposed to reflect the composer Maw's romantic turn, as with his violin concerto. But the problem with it, and I saw Leonard Slatkin conducted it live. I saw the thing at Carnegie Hall. Very impressive piece, except that Maw is not able to generate a single interesting musical idea to sustain the outrageous length of this whole thing. It's, Mahlerish long, 90 plus minutes or something like that. And I admire the ambition, but the execution doesn't do it. His reach, exceeds his grasp, or his grasp exceeds his reach, however that saying goes. He's more ambitious than talented. Let's put it that way. Then you've got another Mark Anthony Turnage thing, Momentum. He also did three Screaming Popes. It's on here. There it is, drowned out. 3 Screaming Popes after Francis Bacon and Kai for solo cello and ensemble. I have no time for this stuff. I think it's all fairly uninteresting, but you may feel differently. That's perfectly fine. I have no issue with the performances. And Thomas Addis's Asila, about crazy people. And that's a very good performance too. He uses all with City of Birmingham. So this is a mixed bag, a curate's egg, if you want to be very English about it. But it's not all bad. The news isn't all bad. It's uninteresting in the more usual stuff. And as often happens, it's interesting to the extent that there's no competition. Because if there were competition, then a lot of it would probably be better. But it's good. It's damning with faint praise. And I want to be snarky about it. I have no problem being snarky, but there are good things in this box. And things that are not easy to find elsewhere. And for that reason, you may well want to consider this. It's a handy collection to have for the Britten works, particularly, because the Britten works are fine, up and down the list. They're just fine. And the other contemporary things that you may find more interesting than I still do. I heard them all when they came out. And, but the Walton, the Elgar, the Holst, none of that was necessary. So half of this is valuable, I think. And it's not bad. It's really not bad. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.